One of the premium features on fantasyomatic.com is the player compare page. You can access the player compare page from a couple different areas, primarily under the fantasy tools. And if you're a premium member, then you will have access to that page. So you simply log in, go to the player compare page, and then you'll pick one player to choose. We'll go ahead with the type ahead and just choose, let's say, Larry Fitzgerald. And over here on this side, I will pick Des Bryant, let's say. And you'll see that we got the two players highlighted on the top of the page. And then on the left-hand side, we see the left-hand side player's rest of season schedule listed, and the right-hand side player here as well. When you're looking at these rest of season schedules, you're looking for things like matchups that have a dark up green that indicates the top quadrant of the best matchups available. We call those great matchups. There could be good matchups, which are the hollow green outline arrow. The worst possible matchup you can get are the worst matchups here. Those are the ones you want to avoid. And then the yellow, those are bad matchups, not quite as bad as worse, but you get the general idea. So it really goes, the best possible matchup you can hope for is the solid green pointing up. The next tier down from that are the good matchups, which is the arrows that you see here. And then it goes down to the bad matchups and then even worse. So you'll also see for each player on each side, you've got the matchup adjustment column. This is sort of the expect more, expect less column. So when you see a green arrow, that means you can expect more. When you see a red down arrow, means you can expect less. And then the value that you see tells us how much more or less you can expect. So here are two good examples. A plus 16 pointing up indicates that we can expect a lot more than our normal production from Larry Fitzgerald on this current week. Then the very following week, we can expect a lot less from Larry Fitzgerald because of that matchup. You can compare those week by week by simply going down and seeing which one of these players you might want to start on a given week. This is actually great for not only trade comparisons, which I think a lot of people will use this for, but also for platoons. If you're streaming quarterbacks or if you've got a bunch of different running backs and you're not sure which ones you should start on a given week, just load those in here and compare them. And this will tell you start Larry Fitzgerald on this week, then Des Bryant all these, go to Larry Fitzgerald here, Des there, and so on. You get the general idea. So it's telling you which one you should start. You can also hit the arrow here and you can get more information about what's happening on that current week. So in week 6, we see Larry Fitzgerald has a player rating of 74. Des has a 79, but Des is on bye. You see the matchup adjustments. You can look at those for weeks where both players are available. You see that Des is going to be an 80 on a given week, whereas Larry Fitzgerald is a 51, and you can make decisions based on that on a week-by-week basis. Additionally, you can also go over to the trade comparison tab, which is specifically designed for trade comparisons. And what you'll see here is that we've got a player rating column, and you see that this one is red. That means that Des Bryant has the better or more desirable year-to-date player rating. You'll notice here that neither of these colors are red or green. That's because it just so happens that these two players have the exact same fantasy points per game average. As you know, on fantasyomatic.com, we do not use fantasy points per game as a indicator of player value because it does not weight what the opponents were that player faced. You can see that illustrated here, that even though both of these players have an 8.9 on the season, that Des Bryant has done a better job against bad matchups and has done a good job against good matchups, marginally to the degree that he's got a 79 instead of a 74. Then when you're looking at the future value, which is really the type of thing you should be basing your trades on, you can see that the rest of seasons or the remaining matchups on the schedule are a little bit less for Larry Fitzgerald, certainly than Des Bryant in this case. So we would rather have the 76 than a 67 for rest of season. So that's why this one is green for Des. And then here you see for the playoffs, Des and Larry Fitzgerald are just a little bit different with the nod going to Larry Fitzgerald. So really a combination of all these things, or whichever things you worry about most, are the ones you should make your decisions based off. We would strongly recommend you do not make any decisions based on fantasy points per game. That is only there on this page so that you can see how maybe the person you're trading with is perceiving the value of these players. We consider that to be fool's gold, but most other fantasy football players use fantasy points per game for whatever reason as an indication of value. So here we can say, although this looks like a great trade on paper because they're both the same value, we would say that Des Bryant is currently the better player. He also has a better rest of season, whereas Larry Fitzgerald does have a slight edge on playoffs. So if you're looking for an increase at the wide receiver position to get you to the playoffs, this would make sense that you would acquire Des Bryant for Larry Fitzgerald. The other point is that not only can you get to the player compare from the fantasy tools section, but if you go into the weekly ratings and you click on a player, you can see here that you can click compare, which will take you over to the compare page with them already selected, and then you can just choose someone else. You can also go into a player detail page and look at similar players and then hit the compare button there as well, which will load both of the player that you had selected and the one that you click the compare on. So all these will get you to the player compare page, which is one of the more useful features in the premium section of fantasyomatic.com.